Hello, Fearless Gamers. Matt here for Fearless Games, and today I'm going to be doing another Vets review here. This time around, we're going to be looking at the new Citadel Case from Games Workshop. Before we get on with this, let's get a little bit of backstory about me and Games Workshop's traveling capabilities. Back when I was a wee lad in high school, 3rd edition was all the rage. There was only 2 ways that were available, for the most part, for transporting your minis. The first was recycling your game box. Excuse me. Basically just taking one of the boxes, the bigger boxes from one of your models, this one particularly from a land speeder, or a box of Guardian, Space Tactical Squad, whatever your army of choice happened to be, and line it up with some bubble wrap or some foam or something, and place your minis inside. And that was a very common way, especially for specifically for me. I've seen some people do totes and such, but it was usually these little boxes, or you went and you bought the Citadel case. And this guy was a really nice fancy way to transport your minis. It had 3 sheets of foam in it, and as I mentioned, and it was a fairly decent way to transport your case. Got to see that you bought the GW version and not some bootleg, and it came with, yes, way back, it used to be red foam. You got a topper, and you got 3 of these sheets to hold your figures in. Now, this thing was great for holding the infantrymen, especially in particular the Space Marines. The only problem was, what if you didn't play Space Marines? What if you, like me and my friend who this case came from, he no longer plays, he gave it to me. We played Eldar, and I played Eldar and Tyranids and Space Marines and the whole gamut. And this case was great for just plain old Dark Angels or just regular Space Marines. But if you did any types of conversions, like this guy, like here, you had to cut out a piece of the foam. If you played Eldar or Tyranids, you ended up ripping through a lot of this foam here just to make your models fit. And another thing was, again, the only thing it was really good at was troops, HQ choices, and regular infantrymen. If you had any vehicles like land speeders, bikes, predators, land raiders, or anything like that, well, at the time land raider wasn't available to purchase anymore, but either way, this case wasn't really that great for that. It was only really good for troops. Later on, GW produced a new case. It was bigger. It used, if I recall correctly, it had it fit 2 of these foam trays next to each other, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 of them, sorry. Me do math. 6 of these foam trays, I believe. I never actually owned one of those because issue was didn't do what I needed it to do. And at that point, we got new cases. We got Sable bags with the pluck foam, so you had more options out there. Now you have Battle Foam, I believe KR, and a whole bunch of other companies. Or you do the classic tried and true, get like an egg crate, fill it with foam from Joann's or wherever you purchase fabric in your areas, and a whole bunch of stuff. But Citadel GW still goes strong with this guy. Until recently. As many of you are all aware, GW has produced new Citadel cases. The Skirmish, the Battle, and the Crusade, I believe they're called. And a couple of things that was very interesting with them is you didn't get a really good look at the cases in their video. They just showed a guy speed zipping, putting out an army, showing how big the box was. This got me intrigued, and especially with this current case that I was using for my Thousand Sons, this guy here got damaged. And so I said, okay, let's go out and get this new Citadel case and see just how good it is. And that's what I just did. I got myself the Crusader here. So this is the big case. It's $125 off GW's website. honest and for truly, I would go to, like, say, if you can, the War Store. There's a couple of other online stores that sell this at a discounted price. So, probably want to get with that, especially with how much GW charges for shipping and all this other jazz. I try to avoid GW's website when possible. So, like all of GW's cases, nice hard plastic case, so I don't really like the soft bags that Sable has because I always feel like they're gonna crush and they're relying too much on the foam, and the foam is designed to squish, so it ends up crushing your models more than it does protect them. So, hard plastic case is a really good piece there. It's got the Citadel logo on it. They made it more generic. That way, it doesn't tell because, as we see on this guy, it had the Imperial Eagle, the Aquaria, on it. Not sure if they made a fantasy version because I've never played fantasy. So this one's nice and generic, so it could be anything you want. Looks really neat. It reminds me of the Apocalypse case they made a couple of years ago when 6 Ed Apocalypse came out, and it was designed to look like a void grenade containment case, and this keeps the similar design. It's got 2 clasps to keep everything in tight, bag strap, which is nice and secure in there, and a handle in case it's something light. So let us dive in. Now, I decided to put this through a fairly model stress test here. I put in 2 Predators, one that didn't have any spikes in it on a bottom case, and on the top I put a Predator with a bunch of spikes on it, which doesn't matter to me if they break, because I'm going to remove them to kind of give the, because my Thousand Sun theme, I want to make it more like they're lost in time, so they didn't put on any of the spikes or anything like that. And I put a Land Raider in here as well, along with a Rhino and the rest of my troops, just to see how well this case holds up with this, because there's some things about this foam that we're going to get into as we dive in. So let's pop this baby open. So we got our pieces here, and so far, looking pretty good. We'll go with the smaller case here. So what you get in this bag is you get this 2 trays. With the Crusade case here, you get 4 in total. 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, 4 set. In the battle, it's half of this, so 2 sets of trays, and for the skirmish, you get 1. And in this top case here, we have ourselves a Predator. And as you see, 1 spike is slightly messed up, but all in all, it actually survived. And these have been in here for about 3-4 days. So to stand up to that much stress in 3 to 4 days, not bad. Not bad at all. And we got the auto gun here. Again, a little bit of damage, but that was there before I put this in the case. So came out of this just like as I put it in. Now we've got this. Now the thing is these trays turn into 2. There's a top tray here. This is more supposed to be for your troops and your troops and stuff like that, whereas the bottom tray is for like your bigger tough, like your knights and your tanks and all that. And we've got ourselves another Predator in here. And the turret, little bend there in the spikes, nothing too terrible, but still, you know, if you didn't want it to bend. And another Predator. And the back spikes on this thing survived the whole ordeal. Okay, and then, whew, that's no good. This little glue on there, and then we got the foam here. So, put this tray stack up like that. We're going to go through a little bit more with the foam later. I just want to go and see how the trays worked out. So we've got ourselves a Rhino. No damage done there. And let's see, 1000 Sunner. He's all good. They actually got through this without any trouble. So just gonna pop these guys out of here real quick. We've got another custom guy who survived. This guy has been breaking on me quite a bit, and he's completely fine. And now the Land Raider that I have hidden underneath it. And, he did lose a smoke launcher. But his spikes, his other smoke launcher, they are all in one piece. So this all was fitting in this case, and I haven't even begun really to utilize the space in these trays. So this was all fitting in this case, and like I said, I only used 2 trays and I didn't even fill them to capacity. So that says something about this. So we're going to put these guys off to the side. Unfortunately, I can't do any zoom-ins because camera girl ain't here and I can't find my remote for the camera. So, like we said before, you get these 2 trays and you get an inner set and the bottom piece. And they have these lines here. And these are actually not glued in, so you can move them in any way, shape you want to fit the tanks. Eldar will benefit a lot from this with their grav tanks because you can wiggle them in. Oh, battery. Wiggle them in and get the fins to kind of go underneath these tray pieces. But you know, they're movable, and then you can sit there and manipulate the foam trays to get them as you need. And we got a lower tray here that does the same. And I've seen from the very excuse me, from the very limited video that GW gets, you can hold a Baneblade in here. What you would do is you would lie it right on the bottom and not actually put it through these little lines here. You'd actually sit it just straight on top of the tray and I guess put the turret underneath it. And the foam is set up in such a way where it kind of all crushes each other. As you can probably, you can't really tell well by this, but when this was sitting down, it was kind of bending up like this, molding around the Land Raider that was beneath it. Making it where it would be essentially easier to store them. And as you can see, the foam is slightly bigger than the top. Its major design is that once you've gotten everything in the case, and you closed it down, it would slightly crush everything, and the foam would wrap around everything. Alright, so now let's break it down to the good and the bad. And since I like to get the bad news out of the way first, let's start with the bad. And first and foremost with it is, price. This thing is very expensive. It's $125 through GW, and for just a couple bucks more I can get a bigger bag from Battle Foam, or or Sable. This should be no more than $100. I think it's priced a little too high for what you're getting out of this whole bag, out of this whole case. Another thing about it is models only. Another thing that, again, this ties into pricing is, well, I paid all this money for this case. I have no way of transporting my Kodaks, my dice, my templates, my tape measure. This only transports the miniatures. You could probably put, like, your tape measure and your dice somewhere in here, but they don't really account for that. And again, for just a few dollars more or the exact same price, I can go to a third-party manufacturer and get a bag that transports the models, the dice, the Kodaks, the tape measure, and anything else that I would probably need while taking this with me. Another issue with it is, excuse me, not accountable for the bigger models. As I noticed before, with this is, with the sponsons here, you know, the sponsons kind of wreck the amount of space that this model has because it can only be put into a certain spot in the case, which takes up a lot of real estate. And also, with the bigger models like these, they cause the bag to, like, they cause the foam to start popping up a lot more than it does normally, which brings up the risk of risking that, you know, you're going to worry that you're going to damage the models. Granted, as I've shown with these spikes and these dudes here, not the case, but I'm still, like, iffy about putting big things in this case. Mainly because I'm just concerned that everything's going to pop right out. And this goes into the final bad point that I'm going to bring up, which is lack of instructions and/or tips. GW is usually pretty big about producing videos of how to paint models, how to use new paints that they've given, how a lot of their stuff works. And in this case, we didn't get that. We need like a tip video on suggestions on placing vehicles, suggesting on placing bigger models and smaller models and crazy models with spikes and all this other jazz. A breakdown of how they put what they put in this case in here. All we got was him doing a quick fast forward piece of him popping out all the miniatures, and I'm just sitting there going, how did he put a Baneblade in there? How? And how did all the other things then pop up and all this other junk with it? It's never explained. And I think this case, it's a new format, it's a new system that they've introduced, and we've got no instructional video. GW, that was a drop on your part. There should have been, you know, yeah, do the whole video where it shows you can fit all of this in there. But you should have immediately also released a video on how, like, tips, how to utilize the space in this case to get all those models in there, how to get those big models to fit without ruining the other ones, reassuring that when you place them and the foam sticks up, it's not going to hurt the models. This is kind of videos that you should be producing, and you haven't yet. So that's one thing, that's the last big thing, it's the major thing that I have on this case, is just lack of information on how to utilize this foam to the way GW has intended you to use it. So, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, why don't we now go on to the good? So, first point is protection. Hard plastic outer core here. One thing I don't like about Sable bags is that they're soft. So I feel like they're easily crushed, and since the foam is not designed to be rigid, it ends up crushing into the models and causing a problem. But with this plastic piece here, it keeps the models well safe and secure, making it more confident that what you have inside here is not going to break. Universal foam trays. Unlike Sable with the pluck foam or Battle foam with their custom-made foam, unless you make very generic squares, they're only made for what you put in them. I've got one bag for Dark Angels, I got another for Eldar, I got another for Guard, and I can't mix and match. I can bitch out the foam, but that's all I can do. With this, there's no issue with that. I put all the Thousand Suns out, I can now throw in some Eldar into this case if I want to, and it would work just as well. This new design allows you for basically a whatever case. A case where whatever you feel like playing that day, you can pop it right here and go, without any issue. Another big point, it's a little weird that I put it in here, but storage. You hold a lot of minis in this. At least the videos they put up have shown you can get quite a few miniatures in here. I just wish I knew how they did it. But you can put quite a substantial force. Looking at it, accounting for the Baneblade and the Knight, they've got a good 2,000, maybe. I don't know, I'm just guessing because I don't have a good chance to see everything, but it looks like a roughly 2,500 points was in this case when GW was revealing how many models were in there. So you can get quite a few out of this guy. Another point that we have with here is the utilization of how the foam and the box work together. This foam is designed that when, like said with the Land Raider here, it was plopped on top, and this foam crushed around it, then the box closed down and squished everything together. So it utilizes the foam's, for lack of better terminology, squishiness to better encase your models in the foam, making sure they're well protected, and they don't move. I had one sorcerer just sitting in here in a lone tray. I couldn't do that now because it's kind of been stretched out from the Predator, but I had it in one of these tray pieces, and then I shook the case around, swung it around, spin it, twirled it, did a whole bunch of stuff. He didn't budge a bit. Which is not better than what happens with, like, the pluck foam and the battle foam stuff is yes, they do hold the guys in place, but there's still a little bit of wiggle room, and that's just enough wiggle room to cause any issues if something really bad happened. Though Romeo has proven that you could potentially throw his bags across the room and they'd still be fine, I'm still skeptical. Skeptical about stuff like that. And the other piece on this is design transportation-wise. One thing that I like about this case is it's slim. It's nice and thin. With that, that's probably why one of the bad points is up there, is because they made this a little bit more streamlined to make it easier to transport. It's lightweight. It isn't this odd, bulky shape, making it kind of awkward to travel around. When I have my battle foam bag around, it's a little awkward going through doors. Same with Sable. I always feel like I'm going to hit somebody with it. Not with this. I walked in with this into the game store, and I didn't. I was like, hey, I just walked in willy-nilly like nothing was any different. It almost felt like I was carrying like a backpack or a laptop. So they really did well with designing this for how it feels in transportation. I would have liked it to be, again, for that bad point, a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, just to account for the bigger models with the real estate, but again, that is something that could be easily corrected if the models are properly put into these cases. And one other point that I will bring up is, again, no memorization needed. With the pluck foam and the battle foaming and all that other stuff, I keep bringing them up, is because of the fact that you need to remember where miniatures go. You have to know what tank fits into that spot, which particular X-Sarch goes in that spot, what customized Sergeant goes in that spot, what customized Demon Lord goes there. This case, you don't have to. Yeah, I put a Rhino and some troops in this one top tray here, but I can actually swap if I want to, put the Predator in this one and all the stuff in here, and the case accommodates for. It makes it so there's less brain power needed at the end of the night when, you know, you've been playing for 4 hours and all you want to do is go home. You don't need to sit there and go, no, where do you go? It's just, oh, plop, 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 however you can get them in there. So, kind of a double-edged sword, because if you don't remember, the proper utilization of space could be there for a while, but on the same front, if you don't have a whole lot, if you're mostly troops or such, not a lot has to go into thinking about where the miniatures need to go and how they fit in this case, which is another great thing. So, overall, when it comes down to it, the biggest question of them all, was it worth getting? Honest and for truly, I say yes. This case is very much well worth getting. I like the design again, I like the feel, and I like how the foam works, and it does feel, though I do have my reservations on some times with it, with just how the foam crushes and everything, I still feel very confident that my miniatures are safe in this case. It is definitely by far the better design between the two GW cases that I've had, and, well, what GW's really had, because they've only had 2. I like that they're taking more of a design look with their case, and again, just out of sheer protection and the sheer ability where the foam doesn't care what miniatures you put in it, and it's a little bit more forgiving with that, I think this case is definitely worth getting. Just again, to account for is putting the bigger models on the bottom, smaller models on the top, and try and get them so they're not poking out of the top foam, so you have some leeway for crushing when the crushing system takes into place. And so that's it for right now. If you haven't yet, like us, subscribe to us here on YouTube, and like this video. That way you get these videos as they come out, and more people can see these and get the word spreading about these videos out there. Check us out on Facebook, where we post news little news briefings about Fearless Games ourselves, or any little tips or news tidbits that we find and as we keep our ears to the ground. And that's really all for right now. So once again, thank you all for watching, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, take care.